So I get a fortune and you get an old house and a plain old farm, huh? Sneering my brother who unexpectedly got a lot of money from our inheritance. Quite a way to repay their daughter who took care of them and even nursed them. You are not really loved. It was infuriating, but I didn't respond. Just you watch. What goes around comes around. Fueled by my anger towards my brother, I sweated and worked on our neglected field. My name is Helen, a 50-year-old housewife. It's been 25 years since I married my husband, and our kids have grown up and become independent. We thought we could live a leisurely and enjoyable life, just the two of us, but life never goes as planned. Just as our children became independent, we started taking care of my parents. My husband's parents passed away long ago, so the ones we are caring for are my parents. They used to be farmers, full of energy, and were always healthy. When it was time to harvest the vegetables, I often helped. Freshly picked vegetables were so delicious, the vivid and sweet vegetables. The reason I fondly remember them is that I can't savor that taste anymore. As they aged, my parents lost their strength and had to retire. I really wanted to keep going, said my father with a weak smile. I wish we could get Helen to eat those vegetables again, said the regretful mother. I wish Mike had taken over for us, the father said. My father looked sad. I have a brother 2 years older than me. He's always been a bit haphazard, impulsive, and always babbling in things. He barely attended high school and eventually dropped out on his own, claiming that it was too much of a hassle. He then left home, avoiding a steady job and instead opting for day labor. When you thought he was drifting, he would suddenly return home and demand money from our parents. Still, they couldn't refuse him because he was their son. Once our parents quit farming, he stopped coming home. There's no money in retirement, he said. He has no business with us. Even though he's my brother, it's hard to stomach his behavior. I wish I could forget his existence, but he's still family after all. From time to time, our parents would worry, wondering if he was doing all right. Since quitting farming, my parents aged rapidly. Even a small hobby farm might have made a difference. By the time they regretted their decision, they had aged significantly and both had become bedridden. I'm sorry, Helen. We're causing you trouble, aren't we? Apologizing to me, my father and mother looked sorry, but I said, because of you, I am who I am today. Let me return the favor. When I said that, my mother thanked me, tears in her eyes. Caring for them was challenging, but my children were already independent, and I had never worked outside the home. I had thought about getting a part-time job once the kids were independent, but we aren't financially strained, so that could wait. After discussing with my husband, I began staying at my parents' home to take care of them. The end may not be too far away. The shock of hearing that from the doctor was substantial. I called my brother, Mike, tears streaming down my face. Won't you come see Mom and Dad? Even if he's a slacker. To my parents, he was their beloved son. I assumed Mike would at least remember the love he'd received from them. So I asked him to see them one last time, but his response was nothing short of horrifying. Huh? Why? I'm kind of busy here. Busy? Are you working? Do I look like I want to bother with that? Nah, I did some day labor yesterday. Figured I'd take it easy and have some fun today. Does that by any chance start with a G? Oh yeah, sure it does. And next come an A? And after that, it doesn't happen to be M, right? Way to go, Helen. You're on to me. What on earth are you thinking? You prioritize gambling over seeing our parents? It's more important to me than life itself. You are the worst. Overcome with the rage at my detestable brother's abhorrent behavior, I hung up the phone right then and there. After that, Mike never visited our parents' house and didn't come to see them. Every day, they grew weaker. And then, suddenly, our father passed away, and our mother followed the very next day. Until the end, they were a loving couple. Once the tears have all been shed, a busy time awaits. Preparing for both funerals simultaneously is a mammoth task. Of course, my husband helps, and our two boys do their parts to make it manageable. Ideally, Mike and I should have discussed it together, but he never showed up. Somehow, I managed to get hold of him, but all I got was, their funeral? I'm busy. Gonna pass. You'll handle it however you want. Then he hung up, as if it's just something you can handle however you please. Even at 52, my brother Mike remains incredibly irresponsible. Amidst my anger at my brother, the tearful funeral came to a close. Then one day, not long after, Mike finally returned to our parents' house. Even though he didn't show up for the funeral, he has the nerves to come here now for something as simple as a discussion about the inheritance. Hey Helen, it's been a while. You've certainly become a middle-aged woman, haven't you? Leave me alone, Mike. You're an old man too. I'm still single though, so compared to you, worn out from raising kids, I'm pretty spry. People might mistake me for your younger brother. I was appalled at his choice of words for our long-awaited reunion. For someone who relished his bachelorhood, Mike looked surprisingly old. Did you visit their grave? Do you really think that dead care about that? That's not a point, Mike. I felt a wave of annoyance at my brother Mike's complete lack of grief over our parents' passing, but I knew it was pointless to argue every point with him. I decided the best course of action was to get this discussion over with as soon as possible and took my seat. Well, then let's get down to business. My gaze fell upon the attorney. Indeed, our parents had prepared a detailed will. Under the watchful eye of attorney, the will was unsealed. What did it say? What's my share? Mike, please! As soon as the envelope was ripped open, Mike lunged forward. Just calm down, would you? Before my astonishment at Mike's behavior, the attorney read out the content of the will. The result, Mike inherited the cash. I inherited the family home and the farm our parents worked tirelessly on. Upon hearing this, Mike laughed out loud. Ha ha ha! Are you serious? This is amazing! I can't stop laughing. The cash, that's this check, right? Whoa, $300,000? Seriously? Wow, farming really pays, huh? The check had been entrusted to the attorney along with the will. It indeed contained a considerable sum. For Mike, who had never held a steady job and lived day to day, this was a fortune. Even I was a little surprised to see such an amount. Sure, they worked tirelessly, but farming was both their hobby and their passion. It seems they probably didn't have anything else they wanted to spend money on. And what about you, Helen? With a smirk on his face and laughter in his eyes, Mike peered into my face. Even though he heard what was in the will, his unpleasant character is still glaringly obvious. The house and the farm. Ha ha ha! Are you serious? Mike doubled over with laughter. Just bear it. Just bear it. I braced myself and tried to contain my anger. So I get a fortune and you get an old house and a plain old farm, huh? With a belly laugh, Mike said. What a way to repay their daughter who took care of them and even nursed them. You were not really loved. I was so furious, I thought I might burst the blood vessel, but I managed to keep my cool. Arguing here wouldn't make a difference. Indeed, the value of this house and field combined doesn't come close to the amount of money Mike is inheriting. Our parents wanted me to safeguard this house and field, essentially the family estate. So I need to be resilient. I know better than anyone that our parents loved me. Well, the eldest son is usually the favorite, right? Plus, I was such an adorable child. Can't blame mom and dad for their feelings. Mike finally stopped laughing, swinging the check in front of my eyes. Well, that settles it. I'll be taking this then. What a jerk, Mike. Whether you get an inheritance or not, I don't want to fight over it later. The lawyer prepared the paperwork. Mike put his signature on it and left. The moment Mike was out of sight, I ran to the kitchen, got some salt, sprinkled it at the front door, and shouted, "Don't ever come back! I will forget about him. We probably will never meet again." I managed to shift my mindset and decided that forgetting such a horrible person is the best thing to do. About a year after our parents passed away, between the inheritance matters and all the paperwork, time just flew by while I was cleaning up my family home that had now officially become mine. The house that was once filled with stuff is now completely empty. I have a house that my husband built for us, and this one, as Mike said, is too run down to live in. I guess the smart thing would be to just sell it. But it's sad to think of the family home being gone. That's what I was thinking as I sat in the empty house. Then out of the blue, I noticed an old hole in the yard. Not many people use holes these days, but my father loved using it. As a child, I was kept away from it because it was dangerous. The metal part was completely rusted, and the handle was rotten. Gently, I touched the hole that was barely maintaining its original form. I could remember my father working joyfully in the field, sweating profusely. My mother was laughing next to him. Such nostalgic, distant, and dear times. I closed my eyes, indulged in memories, quietly opened them, and determinedly said, okay. Farming? Yeah, kind of like a home garden, just a hobby. Why not? The field that I inherited might as well be put to some use. When I consulted my husband about it, he readily agreed. Are you sure? It's the field your parents left behind. Give it a shot. I have nothing but gratitude for my supportive husband. I started tending to the completely neglected field with the help of a farmer who was a friend of my father's. And I started experimenting with the vegetables my father used to grow as well as some new varieties. It was more difficult work than I expected. Phew, farming is tough. I had my own small home garden, but this was on a different level. Not just the vastness, but the difference between vegetables for one's own consumption, and this was striking. How difficult it is to do it properly. Just reviving the thin soil was hard. Thinking about the vegetable suitable for the soil was hard. What about the season? Pests, wild birds are also enemies. Not only growing, but also planning measures to protect the crops was required. The work didn't go as smoothly as expected, and I was making mistakes. I can't believe you're doing such a thing. I, a wealthy man, couldn't do it. The one who looked down on me and even bothered to call was Mike. He had found out somewhere that I had started farming and called me. His usual offensive language, I hung up on him immediately. Forget it. I'm going to forget about that. Fueled by my anger toward Mike, I worked relentlessly in the field. Although it was second-hand, the farming equipment was expensive, but I considered it a necessary investment and spent my savings. You're using your savings, so I won't say anything, said my generous husband. Although I call it my savings, the money for my single days has long been spent. The savings I have now come from diligently storing away the allowance my husband gave me, so ultimately it's still my husband's money. Even then, I tear up thinking about my husband who encourages me without caring about this fact. I'm falling in love with him all over again. My sons also contribute and sharing their findings with me. The farmer friends of my father have also been incredibly kind. Except for my irritating brother, I've been truly blessed with my surroundings, which have allowed me to concentrate on farming. I initially started as a hobby, but once I began, I quickly became deeply involved and serious. I guess I really am my parents' daughter. Time passes as I pondered over these thoughts. And then, I did it! At last, the first harvest from my field. Far from the juicy and sweet crops like my parents used to grow, the amount of harvest is just a trickle. However, it's the accomplishment that counts. I'm satisfied. Oh, you're doing pretty well for the first-timer. The kind old farmer who helped me along the way said that. Although I'm quite old myself, hearing his praise reminded me of my father and touched my heart. Adjust the amount of fertilizer and water a bit. Yes, he used that kind of fertilizer. There's still so much I don't know. Gathering all the information I can, I strive to bring my produce close to the taste of my parents' crop. As time goes by, my field becomes more and more impressive. What started as a small corner is now a fully tended field. There are days of trial and error, experimenting with different crops. Gradually, the quality of crops can grow, improves, and then, wow, another bumper harvest this year. Thank you. Please continue to supply to us. Of course, thank you. My vegetables have now reached a point where they can be sold. I've even managed to secure regular customers. Even a TV station came to interview me about the journey of a housewife who started farming and became successful. Before I knew it, the vegetables I grow have become a popular product. However, I couldn't have come this far on my own. I received help from many people, and most importantly, the knowledge that my father passed on to me was the key to my success. But I still have a long way to go. I'm still far from the taste of my father's crops. I have to try even harder, I thought as I clenched my fist. What's going on here? I heard a voice that I thought I had forgotten. Just as I was about to head to the field, I heard a voice that I had pushed to the corner of my memory and turned around. Mike? I wonder how many years it's been. I recognized him as my brother from his slight resemblance, but he had changed a lot. It's not just that he's aged. Mike, your hair is, well, yeah, it's shining, isn't it? Leave it alone. As I stare at his thinning hair, Mike catches my gaze and shouts back at me, scolding. But I'm not the least bit scared. If anything, I feel like laughing. But if I laughed, things would just get more complicated, so I hold it in with all my might. My cheeks are twitching from trying to hold back my laughter. What brings you here, Mike? It's been quite a while. I thought we wouldn't meet again. I thought Mike would never come back to our parents' home again. Mike points at the house, now standing proudly behind me. What the hell is that? He screams. What do you mean? It's the home where you were born and raised. I know that, but it should be more run down. Why is it so beautifully maintained? Indeed, the house that was once so run down, we considered selling it, has been repaired and looks stunning. Well, because we fixed it up. Where do you get the money for that? I earned it. How? His yelling is getting on my nerves. Even though I'm pushing 60, my hearing is still fine. You knew I started farming, right? I've been growing vegetables in the field I inherited, and business is booming. What? After countless hardships, I finally got my business on track. And now Mike has shown up. And as expected, he started to make trouble. So that field was actually worth something, huh? What are you talking about? There's no way a newbie like you could have made so much money from farming. Of course I had to work hard. Who knew that land could be so profitable? He's not even listening to me. It must be full of nutrients with incredible capabilities. You knew that and kept quiet about it. No, I don't know what you're talking about. I know if a property is found to have a significant value later, we can rediscuss the inheritance division. I object. I want to rediscuss the inheritance division and get the field. You're an idiot. That's right. I'm an idiot. Wait, I'm not an idiot. No, you're definitely an idiot. I don't know where he got this information, but showing off his half-baked knowledge like this is just idiotic. I sigh deeply and tell him, the value of this field hasn't changed. You're lying. What would I gain from lying? If you're suspicious, why don't you ask a real estate agent to appraise it? You ask for it. You will regret this. I won't. The price of land around here hasn't changed much over the years. What, is that so? If you're suspicious, ask a real estate agent. Seeing my firm assertion, Mike's confidence seems to waver. His face is gradually clouding over. But you're actually making a profit, right? It's all thanks to that field, isn't it? It's all thanks to the field, huh? Well, sure, having that land did inspire me to get into farming, and as a result, I'm doing well financially. See? I knew it. God, he is annoying. My brother's misunderstanding is starting to grate on me. Fine then, enough. Frustrating with the conversation, I found myself yelling. I'll let you use the half the field. Do as you wish. All right, My brother thrust his fist into the air as though he had achieved a complete victory. But despite my outburst, I was fairly calm inside. Let him try, I thought. My brother, who never once helped with the farm work when our parents were alive, I was curious to see how he would handle farming. Help me! Wow, that was fast. It had only been a month since my brother started farming. I had divided the field in half and let him use the barren half, and yet, just 1 month in, and Mike was crying out for help. What do you expect me to help you with? I asked. I have no idea how to do this, he whined. That figures. His plot of land was utterly neglected, no preparation whatsoever made for planting crops. What had he been doing for the past month? Don't you get it, Helen? This land is supposed to be a gold mine. I planted seeds, so why aren't they growing properly? Is he still talking about gold mines? Does he think it all ends with sowing the seeds? If it were that easy to get bountiful harvest, everyone would be doing it. You have a lot to learn, Mike. In a few years, you might see some profit, I advised. Who would give advice, I thought, pushing him away. Yet my brother, Mike, came crying to me with a half sob. I wish he would stop. He's getting snot all over me. Help me out, Helen. You're my little sister, aren't you? I don't want to think of a guy who wouldn't even come to our parents' deathbed as my brother. Don't just call me your sister when you need something. When I coldly pushed him away, Mike slumped right there. I'm up to my ears with my own farm. I've come this far with the help of many people. You should work hard too, Mike, and become someone worth helping. I told you before, you have to stick it out for a few years then. I don't have time for all that. I tried to encourage my unwilling brother, but Mike shouted out in serious desperation. I can't even wait a few months. My debt repayment deadline is just around the corner. Debt? Yeah, I'm in debt hell. What the? You inherited $300,000 in cash, didn't you? I spent it. What? I blew it all on gambling and now I'm broke. What? I didn't feel like working anymore and borrow money hoping for a big break. But that's all gone too. Then I heard that you were making good money farming. So I thought, hey, why not me? But why doesn't it pay off for me? Why? I don't know. It's ridiculous and there's no point in discussing it. Can you believe it? In just a few years, my brother had spent all the precious inheritance from our parents, and he thinks he can just easily make a fortune in farming? There's a limit to messing around. Listen, Helen, please help me out. I refuse. No matter how much my brother pleaded, I couldn't bring myself to want to help him anymore. Perhaps if he'd shown some determination to fight it out on his own, I might have been inclined to lend a hand. But my brother was, as ever, dependent on others. He wouldn't try to do anything on his own, the same old careless and thoughtless character. Please help me, Helen. The debt collectors are almost here. Leaving my yelling brother behind, I left the field. I don't know what happened to Mike after that. I have heard rumors that he's on the run from debt collector. But I haven't heard anything else, so, well, I guess it's not hard to guess what's happening. When Mike left, the field came back under my control. The farming I restarted on this vast land is going well. As I was working the fields and rubbing my shoulder, my husband, who was helping out on his day off, gave me a massage. Would it be okay if I helped you with the farming once I retire? My husband asked me that the other day. His words made me very happy. My sons also seem quite interested, so there's a chance they might take over the farming. The home and the fields that my father protected and my mother loved. I wonder if they are happy that these have been revived. Mom, Dad, I will continue to protect this field. We will continue to work hard, aiming to grow delicious vegetables, just like the ones my parents grew. So please, both of you, watch over us.